Welcome to Guatemala.
Bienvenido a Guatemala.
Welcome to Guatemala! Guatemala, when it comes to visa categories, falls into the easy one. So it's not very difficult to get a visa for Guatemala. If you're from North America or from Europe, most probably you don't need a visa to visit Guatemala. For the rest of the world, honestly, I believe it's quite easy to get a visa. It is also part of the CA4 countries, so that includes El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras and Nicaragua. So if you get I believe one visa, you can visit all 4 countries for 90 days in total. So not 90 days for one country, but all 4 countries at one time. So this is the currency of Guatemala, and this is called quetzales. Probably the hardest to pronounce so far in my journeys. So quetzales is the main currency, although some places also quote prices in dollars, but it's better to use this because you will get bad exchange rate. So when I was crossing the border, I saw some people with cambio, which is exchange. Again, bad exchange rate. In terms of paying with cards, most of the places either don't accept it or they charge mostly 8% of transaction as transaction cost. So keeping cash is a really good idea in Guatemala. So that's all about the currency. In terms of withdrawing cash, there's ATMs everywhere, but unfortunately the problem is they charge quite a lot of transaction fees, and I have yet to come across a single ATM which didn't charge any transaction fees. Some of them could charge as much as $4 to $6 per transaction, and the maximum is 2,000 quetzales. So for every $250-ish, you're paying roughly $4 to $6 in transaction fees. That's how it is, unfortunately. So cash is king in Guatemala. If you actually check on the quetzales notes, the currency notes, you can see the Mayan numerals as well. Cool. If you think I've forgotten to tell you how expensive Guatemala is, you're wrong. It is surprisingly quite expensive. I got here and I was really surprised by the prices. Generally, shuttles are a big money sponge, and if you're going around, you will need them. They're not cheap in Guatemala because the distances are quite big. Food is actually quite expensive. Antigua is probably the most expensive place, which is understandable. It's very touristy. And generally doing tours, etc. is expensive as well. So a lot of places have entrance tickets as well, which adds to the cost. You will need somewhere between $50 to $70 for a good day, sometimes even more, especially if you want to eat at good restaurants. Which SIM card should you get when you come to Guatemala? Now, there's 2 companies here, Tigo and Claro. Tigo has a slightly better coverage and it is a bit more expensive when it comes to their packages. Claro, on the other hand, is very easily available. So I just arrived at a bus station in Guatemala and literally bought the SIM card from these ladies at a stall. They were very nice and they really helped me. So I got the package that was 6 gigabytes of data, quite a lot of minutes and whatnot, and it was something like $6-7 SIM card and the package, and it was valid for 15 or 16 days. It's a little bit more expensive when you have more data and more time period added to it, but not so much. So for the same package, Tigo was a bit more expensive. Second advantage Claro has is that if you go to the rest of the countries in Central America, you can use it there. So if you go to El Salvador, if you go to Honduras, Claro is present there, and you can use it for a week or so. If fair usage policy applies, you can use your SIM card there. I think even in America, I'm not entirely sure of that, but yeah, I got Claro and so far it's been pretty good. So I would recommend Claro if you're going around, if you want a cheaper option. But if you want more very detailed coverage, if you're going around for much longer, get Tigo. Both are pretty good, I've been told. The internet is a little slow in Guatemala if you are working with anything uploading or downloading, but for browsing normal, stuff, it's good enough speed. Wi-Fi is generally also quite easily available pretty much everywhere, and even in places like Simuk, where I was getting Wi-Fi, it worked pretty much fine at the same level. So yeah, that's the speed of internet if you're deciding on working from here. If you don't work with anything, anything heavy, it's gonna be fine. If you do, not a good idea. Let's talk about getting around in the country, which is easy and difficult both. Difficult if you want to use public transport, easy if you want to use shuttles, which are everywhere. So the biggest airport is in the Guatemala city, and there are small airports. I believe there's one in Flores that I'm flying out of Guatemala to Belize, and I don't know if there are any more airports. So if you want to fly around, that's up to you. The second option is using a car. Now the roads are actually surprisingly not that bad. It's just that a lot of it is mountainous and the roads are quite narrow. And the chicken bus drivers are quite aggressive, like seriously aggressive. So you have to be careful if you're driving here. When it comes to booking shuttles, they're everywhere, so you don't really need to book them in advance, but do shop around. Like, you will find different prices from different shops, and most of the time it's the same person who's taking you to the next destination. Keep your tickets on you, and when you enter, you have to give it to the shuttle person. When it comes to public transport, chicken buses are easy, but they don't go a long way. So even for a short ride, you will have to change them a few times. Like, for example, from Atitlan to Chichicastinango, it would be like 3 buses and a boat, something like that. So it's a bit ridiculous. They're also not the safest way to travel. And if you're tall like me, they're also not more comfortable, because I was like sitting like this the whole time. They're actually school buses from America that have been converted. So that's public transport in Guatemala. The government of Guatemala has a nice leaving present for you in the form of a departure tax. 250 quetzales or $33 as of now. No cards accepted. You must bring cash with you, and I'm not sure if it applies if you are leaving by road, but by air for sure. And also, it's not part of your ticket price. This is not an easy topic, honestly, because I encountered 2 types of people. The average day-to-day Guatemalans that you will meet on the street, selling you some stuff or just, going about their business. They're really friendly, they're really nice, and they make you feel welcome. They will try and help you as much as they can if you're lost or if you're looking for something. They're just really nice and friendly, and I love those people. And then you have the second type of people, which are mostly men and mostly attached to the tourism industry. Now, this is the class that you need to be careful and wary of, because most of them will just look at you like a walking, talking wallet, which is not a fun experience. I mean, I got sold like shuttles which are not going in the right direction, and I was just abandoned midway. But there were like local people who helped me then to get to my destination, or they would just tell you the wrong information so it could just, quickly sell you something. So, or some of them are just downright rude, like the guards, etc., at certain places. So, I mean, I would say on an average, they're very nice, friendly people, but you have to be careful and wary of the men that are mostly attached with the tourism industry. Other than that, I've had a fantastic time. The main language in Guatemala is very firmly Spanish. It's pretty much everywhere, and there's no second language as such. So people who speak English are usually related to tourism, and even that's most of the time pretty basic. So I would definitely recommend 2 things. 1, learn some basic Spanish. Hola, buenos dias, Adios, por favor, lo siento, some basic Spanish words, which are really helpful. And also download the Spanish pack on your Google Translate because you're going to need it here for directions. Even in some of the big restaurants, they just don't have the menus in English. So yeah, you'll have to Google quite a lot of stuff here. Get ready for that. So while Spanish is the most commonly spoken language in Guatemala, it has 23 other national languages, 21 Mayan, and 2 indigenous non-Mayan languages. I bet you didn't know that. So, how safe is Guatemala for visitors? It's a little tricky question. Honestly, personally, I haven't really felt threatened at any point. But based on the statistics, you still need to be careful, although it has come a long way from the violent past, where there were a lot of issues. A good thing about Guatemala is there's quite a lot of established tourist centers. So all the famous places from Antigua to Atitlan to Simukchampe to the beaches, they all have well-established tourist places, and there's increased police presence, or at least that's what I saw. So I felt a bit more safe, but I would still not recommend going out like after dark alone. Be vigilant, and you need to be careful, especially after dark. I hope that answers your question. So what's the best time to come to Guatemala? I would suggest somewhere from December to March because this is the non-rainy season, so you get good temperatures and you can go around quite easily without all that rain. How many days do you need for Guatemala? I would say 10 days at the absolute minimum. You'd need a couple of days for Antigua, at least 2 days for the hike to Equatenango, and if you're doing any other thing like Tikal, Atitlan, and if you want to go to the beaches, 7 to 10 days is an absolute must, and even then you would be just kind of like, running. So I'm spending 2 weeks here and I'm gonna see quite a few spots, so I'm quite happy with the amount of time that I've decided to spend here. So I would definitely say 7 to 10 days. 2 to 3 weeks is if you want to do everything absolutely chilled. That includes the beaches on the Pacific and on the Atlantic side. They have access to both in Guatemala. So yeah, 7 to 10 days minimum, 2 to 3 weeks if you're gonna do it more relaxed. Not all tour guides provide accurate information, especially when it comes to Maya history. So I was told that Mayans had only one god, as well as they never did human sacrifice. In Jasha and Tikal, both of these are wrong, and I'm sitting in Belize and I saw extensive proof, kind of both of them. So yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. When you visit Guatemala, it's quite important that you wake up early because in summer the sun sets here quite early, so like around 5:30 the sun is gone. By 6 o'clock it's like dark, properly dark. But it's not just about the sunset, because a lot of places are actually located in valleys, so even before the sun sets the light is gone. So like 4 o'clock ish the light starts disappearing if you're in a deeper place. So make sure you wake up early and you will be greatly rewarded. When you visit Guatemala, there's a potential sense of getting this false idea that this is a rich country where people have enough money, especially if you come to Antigua and more of the richer places where tourists, sort of confine themselves to. So that's not the case. I've seen people scavenging for food, literally 2 seconds ago from this bin. So when you come to this country, make sure you support local people. You can do that by buying these, handicrafts as souvenirs. You can eat from local places, which are really nice actually for food, and you'd be getting some authentic local food as well. And make sure when you're buying tours, you do that from local places and not online from some place else where they keep most of the money and very little goes to the community here. So when you come here, support local people. It's really, really important. When you're coming to Guatemala, Google is not very good when it comes to driving, so make sure you use Waze. It works much better. When you're booking tours and shuttles in Guatemala, make sure you do it with good companies, especially check their online ratings, because you will see a lot of people advertising outside shops. But the problem is people you book with and people you go with are two different set of companies or people. So there's no accountability. So make sure you go with someone who has an online presence, has some good reviews, and that will help you. I promise. There are a lot of dogs you will see throughout Guatemala, and most of them are actually really cute and friendly, and they will come up to you and be nice. They're quite timid and scared as well, but some of them can be aggressive, so be careful before you head out to pet every single one of them. Yes. So Uber is widely available in all big cities, and if you are taking Uber, I would recommend switching to the cash because a lot of the drivers just cancel it if you're paying by car. So yeah, use cash. There are a couple of places where you would go, like Tikal if you want to stay there, or Simuk Champe where you don't have electricity. So it's available between certain time periods only. So I would recommend getting a battery pack if you don't carry that already. Definitely worth it, seriously. This is Brown Boy Travels. Do subscribe, like and share. You can also reach me on Instagram. I'll see you in the next video.